Welcome to the Dogger Pass podcast. I'm your host, Dan Tom, at Dan Tom MMA, analyst whose work you can probably find somewhere around the internet. But on this here program, the Dogger Pass podcast, where we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's before the fight, which will be UFC Vegas 111, UFC on ESPN 73. Not many of those left before the changeover. UFC Fight Night, Bonfim versus Brown. And to break down these cards, of course, I got to have the best co-host in the game. He's not even a co-host. He's just another host. We're all equals here. Let's bring him on at Madlab MMA. Mike, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
What's up, dude? What's going on, man? So first of all, I just want to confront this. I want to get in front of this because I'm going to get the fucking comments. I know the camera's a little bit blurry. My camera's not working. I got to order another one. I gave it 2 weeks to give it a shot. It's not working, so I will have one next week. I'll be crisp and clear, crispy and clean. You know what I mean? And that's it, brother. I'm ready to break down another card after that debacle. Bro, what a fucking debacle last week, dude.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good to see you. You look great, Mike. And as I'm learning to do, not to worry about the comments because I'm not very welcome in there. But yeah, it was a crazy debacle last week, was it not? And we're gonna, we got to touch on it a bit. Check the timestamps when we do add them. Some people complained last week, but our producers are always great. Shout out to Dayton, and we got Jared back on the sticks this week. Shout out to Jared. So feel like we're taking the OG ride today. So we're always in good hands here. So I want to shout out our producers. But yeah, we're gonna definitely just touch real quick on UFC Vegas 110. Positives first, Mike. It was a winning week, and not that we're not grateful, not like we don't know how to win, like we've been there before or whatever. But it was a winning week for both of us, although it was faux picks for me, so nothing on my official record. But I gave out good information there, and I believe Dayton's dog of the week came through. Dayton, we're going to have to bring him back on to victory lap that, because that's 2 dogs in a row that was attached to some craziness because he had Waldo Cortez Acosta. Of course, we can briefly touch on that. That was just the second biggest story of the night, though, which was, of course, the Bulgarian situation. I know I just kind of shotgun grouped it to set it on the table there, Mike. We're not going to try to spend too long, but we do got to touch on this. So I'll throw it to you with that kind of sloppy table setting by me, sir.
Yeah, man. Listen, guys, I'll just let you know this. Well, first of all, keep in contact with your books. That I'll tell you. Let's start off with our money first before we talk about their money. Keep in contact with your books. There are some books that are switching things over. My book, I wouldn't say I got lucky. They kind of shafted me a little bit. But what happens is we had a plus 2,500 parlay on my site. Everything hit except for that. So William Hill, Caesars, and stuff like that, what they're doing is they're pushing your leg out and they're paying you out for that. So if you had a plus 2,500 and you used William Hill, Caesars, or maybe another smaller sports book, they push that out, maybe knocks you down to a plus 1,800. So you're still getting paid out, which is good. It's very noble of them. My guy, I went back and forth a little bit with them, and they pretty much told me, look, we're not going to take your money, but we're not going to give you money. So it was basically a push. It was basically a no bet, no contest, whatever you want to call it. So as things come out, the bigger sports books, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, and stuff like that tend to be a little snitchy and they don't really budge. They're apparently they did send out letters saying we're monitoring the situation, which means they probably want solidified proof that it was fixed. And in my opinion, now we'll get into that. I think it was 85% a job. I kind of got nervous in my Discord, and I was a little disappointed with myself that I didn't follow the movement, because about 30 minutes before, my whole Discord was blowing up. How is this possible? How is this jump? And we all recognized it. And unbeknownst to me, like, I really wasn't thinking. I was kind of trying to figure everything out. I should have honestly told everybody, go hedge hard on the other side. Something's not right. And I'm transparent. I didn't do it. I missed the boat on it. And I honestly didn't do it. But the fact of the matter is this: the one thing that concerns me most about this is you got a lot of these conspiracy heads out there that, they scream rigged. Every sport is rigged. This is all rigged. That's rigged. Do I think this was rigged on his part, on Bulgarian's part? Yes, I do. 85%. I'd say I'd give him the 15% leeway. I do think he got paid. I do think he jobbed that fight. And I do think the fix was in. However, it does not mean everything is rigged in sports. You get all these people that, the sports aren't rigged when they're winning, but then when they're losing, all of a sudden it's rigged. Like, you can't have it both ways. This was a situation, and I come from the most corrupt sport in history, which is boxing. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've been to events where there was clear corruption. I was a part of the Luduva Boxing Committee in Paterson, New Jersey, where I've heard rumblings. I was sat with Max Kellerman. I sat with Emmanuel Stewart. Like, I heard the stories. I know that there is corruption in sports, but it's very minuscule. This isn't a thing where everything we watching is fucking cinema, guys. Like, you got to get your head out of the tinfoil hat conspiracy where everything is fixed and everything is a storyline. It's not. The last thing I do want to say about this, and I'll pass it over to you, Dan, is I want everyone to get off Mark Montoya's back. This is a guy who's been in the game for 30 plus years. He's got a crystal clean name. The guy's never been in trouble. He's never had anything bad say about him. He's got a great lineage of people that he's trained. Why, in 3 decades of being in this sport, bleeding for this sport, training fighters to be great inside and outside the cage, is he going to throw all of his life's work away, a cancer survivor, all of his life work away for Isaac fucking Bulgarian? Like, really think about how maniacal that sounds, how crazy that to kind of lump him in with this, where he had to get in front of this and get in front of a camera and explain to people how he's not involved in this and he had no idea. Like, leave this guy alone. This guy has nothing to do with this. This is literally a boneheaded kid who made a boneheaded decision, ruined his life, ruined his career. He'll never fight again. He'll never be in the UFC again. And if this becomes a big time federal thing where he is guilty, he'll probably get issues getting a job again. But to lump this guy in, who's been such a clean advocate for the sport, and such a noble man, is asinine to me. So do yourselves a favor. Stop calling this gym. Stop lambasting him on social media. The guy has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, 100%, Mike. I agree with all that. A lot of people asking me what did I think, and you guys, when you have people like Cormier and Chiesa explaining the technical stuff, you don't need to hear it from a nerd like me. But yeah, I did give my opinion on it, and I feel firm. And I'm not a guy who really, and you can check the tape. I don't really ever talk about or accuse of fight fixes or this or that. A couple rare occasions and whatnot. And yeah, I've also, I've been around for the Krause scandal, right, and whatnot. But the unfortunate part there, which I also agree, big fan of Mark Montoya. And if you're asking me the same thing, if a gun's to my head, or we're talking in entertainment and betting terms, right, Mike? If I were a betting man, which I clearly am, hosting this show, I would bet one of the most high character coaches I've ever interviewed, and hear from other guys like Eric Nixick, who I trust his really word. All these guys, all other coaches hold him really high. Like, yeah, if I were a betting man, I'm betting Mark Montoya has nothing to do with it. And it's really unfortunate that his name and that gym is getting dragged. But like when we were breaking down the fights last week, Mike, and as I do when I'm breaking down the fights, they are a kind of a sister gym of sorts. And you see it not just with their history of sharing members, which has included James Krause himself, who both cornered with Mark and have had Mark in his corner. And that's why Mark's getting dragged, unfortunately. And it's really unfair, and Mark didn't even have to come out, and he came out and gave us actually really good information, right? Like saying that Bulgarian, regardless of how this goes, Bulgarian ain't fighting again, and he's cut from the gym. Like, that tells you a lot right there too, folks, about the situation and in Mark's character. But we're not here to defend that. We just wanted to really address this and say, yeah, I'm not going to, this isn't any sort of lap or anything, but Mike, we did talk about this. I know I've talked about this article drop that I wrote during when we first, started this show, taking over hosting duties. And I got a lot of crap for that article about the UFC schedule and its effects and the corporification kind of our sport, right? Using the casino parallel, the film Casino, of course. And in it, on the fan perspective, and one of the things I said, even if you don't care about fighter pay or this or that or sport structures or rules and any of the nerdy stuff, that a lot of people in this space care about, fine. You're just a selfish guy. You want to gamble. You just want your fights. You don't give a crap, right? Morals, be damned. This is cage fighting. Okay, cool. But even you should be worried, because I said in so many words or less, I'm not trying to fan flame, so I didn't write out specifically sports gambling, but when guys like Lou DiBella, Mike, you know this, when they talk about fight fixing, it's not some tinfoil hat cinema, like you said. There are air quote legal ways of fight fixing, right? There are ways of just like we talked about with the Aljamain Sterling TJ Dillashaw we brought up on here before, or Magomed Ankalaev Poatan rematch, where the broadcast seemed to have known information about a fighter being injured. Now, it didn't get reflected or flagged that we know of in the betting lines, right? But that can constitute as a fix too. It's not some elaborate thing where all the refs are involved. And by the way, not only boxing, like me and you are also longtime basketball fans. So if anybody's going to be tinfoil hat, right? I lived through the Donahue area. That validated me as a guy who was watching Kobe Bryant knife hand chop people in the throat and have a guy who got knife hand chop in the throat be called for flagrant fouls. You know what I'm talking about, right, Mike? And even then, we're not the big tinfoil hat guys in this space, but we are going to be realistic. And yeah, this does happen, but you got to be careful because you're already seeing people go, oh, was any losing bet a fight fix and stuff? And guys, I was on the wrong end of all that stuff. I continue to be on the wrong end. People, stop complaining about your bad luck. The fact is, I have this long slate. And the fact is, whether you're a defender of me or a hater of me, even I can agree. Okay, I'll wear the complaining badge. Okay, I have all these bad beats. I'm a big complainer. Okay, let's agree with the haters for a second here, Mike. Shouldn't I be blaming, if not a majority, if not a minority of my betting losses on suspicious things, Mike? And has anybody heard me do it? You can run back the tape. I complain a lot, but have I ever been like, oh, this is a fight fix? No. It's, this is a shitty decision. Oh, this was a shitty refereeing beat. And I happen to be on the wrong end of it. And that's usually where my complaint starts and stops. And people will complain, even though they were complaining about the very same things. But that's neither here nor there. Am I wrong in that?
No, yeah, you're right. Let's just move.
So let's move on.
Move on to better things. That's it.
Yeah, we'll move on to better things. But yeah, just
I will say this for last, and then I'm going to stop, and then we
get into the close it out. Close it out.
I do think that it was fixed. I don't think I know where you were getting at with the injury thing, where you said because that happens all the time, right? We seen Derek Lewis pull out of a main event 5 minutes before the main event was supposed to kick off because he had stomach ache because he ate like fried chicken or something. So those are things where the broadcast knew this guy was injured. The broadcast knew he was sick, and then it falls out. Now DraftKings locks, you can't pull your fighters out. So that's different. This was not that. This dude took money. I'm willing to bet my money that Dolgarian actually did take money to throw the fight. Because if you know anything about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you know anything about defense and you know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 101, there's nobody that fights off a choke like that knows anything about defense. You don't fight off a choke like that. The first thing you do is peel the hands. You hand fight, you peel. He threw that fight. So in the defense of that side of the fence where they're talking about fight fixing, the fight was fixed. I don't think it was an undisclosed injury, because if it was, then Montoya would say, well, yeah, he came in with an ankle injury or this. That would come out. That would literally come out from people that were training with him. Yeah, he was dealing with an ankle injury. None of that. This dude was healthy. This dude threw the fight.
Yep. By the way, we're almost at the 10-year anniversary of Bang Kunz, if you remember that. That was the other fight fixing thing that actually came in. Because again, what delineates it, folks, is at the end of the day is follow the money, right? And by the way, I used to work at Mandalay Bay, the sports book, and my connections there. And this probably past statute of limitations now, not that it matters, but yeah, I actually heard from a firsthand witness that a bunch of Japanese dudes in suits, Mike, came with suitcases full of cash to bet Taehyung Bang for that fight over in South Korea.
Well, so, apparently there was $16 million in the Hard Rock alone bet on this fight. $16 million.
Yep, and a lot of it happens right here in Vegas. So, but yeah, anyways, folks, I probably already pissed people off by taking too long on that. So we'll get to what you want, the fights. Let's break them down, baby. We got UFC Vegas 111, UFC fight, or UFC on ESPN 73, UFC Fight Night. Bonfim versus Brown, another main event with kind of two flawed fighters, but action-packed fighters. We got Gabriel Bonfim is going to be coming in as your favorite. He opened as a wider favorite, but money has come in on him. He's now minus 190 to come back on Randy Rude Boy Brown, plus 160. Total set at 2.5 rounds, over 2.5, minus 120, under 2.5, plus 100. Yeah, this is interesting. Got you guys Apex stats and Southpaw stats as usual. No Southpaws here, but in the Apex, Bonfim is 2-0 in that UFC Apex, 3-0 if you consider the Dana White Contender Series. Brown 3-1 in that Apex. Of course, that lone loss coming to Vicente Luque, who was a former teammate of Gabriel Bonfim. They come from Lurato MMA, which Vicente moved stateside, of course, training in South Florida. And Lurato MMA has since changed over to Bonfim Brothers MMA. So they're bringing in prospects and athletes, but the main focus and the main stars in that gym are the Bonfim brothers. We got the older one, Bonfim, fighting here. Mike, what do you got on this fight, buddy? This is an interesting one.
Yeah, you brought it up perfectly. You said about the mistakes. Both of these guys are kind of mistake riddled, and I think that's what this fight's going to boil down to. This fight's going to boil down to who can minimize their mistakes. It's not going to be who can implore this. Both of these guys have tendency of doing some really nice things, and both of these guys have tendency to doing some really like what the fuck you just do things. I have kind of a personal relationship inside the Randy Brown camp. I know Matt Cully. I've called some fights for reality fighting. For Ring of Combat with Matt Cully, who's over in Budokan in New York, who trains Randy Brown for years. I know what he puts into his fighters, and I know what Randy Brown is capable of. I've seen plenty of him inside the cage and outside when it comes to the mats and stuff like that. The kid's a super, super talented fighter. So is Bonfim. I look at this fight and I think when I watch the film on these guys, I see a little bit more upside when it comes to that quick finish, that explosiveness, that don't blink or something could be finished with a guy like Bonfim in certain spots. But when it comes to Randy Brown, when he finds his range, when he finds his rhythm, it's very, very hard to deal with him. I mean, that's when that's when he has his good fights. Sometimes you'll see him lost in there. Looks like he finds it a little bit, he loses it a little bit, he tries to get it back, he tries to reset a little bit too much. When he's resetting 5, 6, 7 times in a round, he's having a setting issue. He's not able to really put his foot in the sand and start confidently throwing. But when you see him start to figure out range and he's not resetting as much, and he's just kind of flowing, with his punches and flowing with the game, he's very, very hard to deal with. Like Randy Brown can be anybody on any given night. He's going to have a pretty significant reach advantage of this fight. He's a guy who knows how to utilize his range. I think he's going to give Bonfim problems in there. I'm actually going to go with the upside here. I'm going to go with Randy Brown.
Wow. Yeah. This is giving me vibes of Brendan Allen versus RDR, I was going to say. So that should maybe make you feel a little better, Mike, for your dog pick there, because you got an underdog who's live. He's more experienced, right? In the UFC, but also, arguably, just overall, Randy Brown's got a lot of experience, obviously, mainly in the UFC. Dude, it's 20 fights. That was the thing. I had to make fight profiles completely new last week, and the same for this week. So I'm hoping one of these guys do well, so I didn't, make it for nothing, because I really go in depth, right? I run them through the comb. And here's the thing, though. I like Randy Brown. It would be awesome to see Randy Brown win because of shout out to Jamaica and what everything's going on over there. Like that alone, right? That would be awesome. Just like, again, back to the Brendan Allen vibes, right? Duke Rufus passed, unfortunately. Shout out to Duke. And it was kind of fitting that a couple days later, a Duke Rufus fighter gets the upset in the main event. That's obviously not how the world works or MMA works, but it'd be nice, I'm saying. And I went in because even though, we go and we try to wipe the biases clean, and people from like Mike to the John Annex of the world won't even look at the odds because they don't want that influence, which I really appreciate, by the way. I also appreciate the people in the chat. James Kendrick goes fan. I'm MMA Plays. Great to see you guys. But, and I'll touch on that, Ghost, as far as if Randy Brown actually establishes jab more often, it could make his life so much easier. Example, the Salikhov fight. Very beautiful stuff, and we'll talk about Salikhov as well. And those tools will especially be helpful in this fight, especially with a guy who Bonfim, his head goes upright. And if he does that double jab, to the right hand, that could be right there. But like even Mike credited as well and co-signed off the top, right, of his breakdown, is the flaws are huge. And well, Bonfim isn't the only fighter who falls apart. Both footwork, especially with footwork, but head position, but especially with footwork, which is Brown, right? And his foot position really falls apart. And you see that because he likes to kind of play fast and loose, plays with his food. And shout out to his corner, right? Nardu Debra, really underrated corner. Like, any criticisms you have about Randy Brown, like dipping too much, playing with his food, not sticking to your range, grappling when you don't need to grapple, like common Randy Brown mishaps, right? Which is something that I noticed. A lot of inconsistencies there. It fights way closer, win or lose. And there's a lot of fights in there that should be either draws or losses, which we'll get to. And it's going to actually factor into one of the only plays that I like so far. Well, there's 2 plays that I like. I'll give you guys. Okay. But, despite his corner saying everything you would want, it's ultimately, and this, Mike, it's ultimately up to the fighter to do. And, training partners can say they're looking great and this and that. And we get that information. I know you get that information, Mike, and that's great. You bake that in. But at the same time, we really have to, at the end of the day, we have to go off the evidence we see in the cage. And that evidence is that, yeah, Randy Brown fights really close. He doesn't quite use all these tools, despite his corner giving him the excellent thing. And one thing I did notice is like, holy crap, dude, I haven't seen a person eye poke this much since John Jones. And not only eye poke, he is a habitual fence grabber. And I didn't even bother to sprinkle in the low blows, which he's got a decent amount of those, but boy, does it really stand out. Randy Brown maybe doesn't go a fight without committing multiple fouls in it. And, you know, you look at his fights with Elise Zaleski dos Santos, where he really eye pokes him really bad, arguably shifts the trajectory, then rocks him right after it, right? And loses that round. But dos Santos is actually coming back by the end of the round, wins round 2. And Randy Brown, he'll lose round 2 at a high clip, but he comes out and he can either finish the fight or be really dangerous in that round 3, right? So I'm looking maybe, if you're looking on a Randy Brown side, I would look maybe for him on the live betting side. But here's the problem. He didn't show much cardio coming in, Mike, cardio problems coming in, but lately he's been flagging kind of consistently. And it kind of goes to my canary. I know we're welterweight. We're not talking about Sean O'Malley, Andre Ulos of the world. Shout out to Bisping, who embarrassingly called Randy Brown Andre Ulo after interview, by the way. But like Randy Brown still thinks still the same applies. Just like Anderson Silva, weight class up, right? These long and lanky guys, whether we're talking about shin snaps or cardio, which goes with age as well. Randy Brown, not a spring chicken, 35, as well as making these drastic weight cuts the older you get. And again, he's not only is he in his 30s, he's deep in his 30s at this point. You know, how hard are these weight cuts? You know what I'm saying? So it sucks because I'm going in with a bias looking to both pick Brown and bet Brown, if not bet Brown live. And even though, spoiler alert, folks, I'm drawing to the finish line here. Stay with me. Even though, spoiler alert, I'm picking Bonfim, I want it to be like this is a, you know, and I still believe that the value's on Randy Brown, by the way, but I don't even know how confident I can live bet it with the opportunity I'm looking for here. Do you know what I'm saying with the cardio, Mike?
Yeah, I think it depends on the fight. You know, I really do. I think with Randy Brown, it depends on the fight. Depends what kind of fight you're going to bring to him, which is going to, you know, predicate that. Obviously, we have the smaller cage, right? We're in the Apex again, right?
Yep, we're in the small cage again. Yeah, absolutely.
Smaller cage again. So Bonfim, you know, probably will be able to trap him down. So I think that's why it's so important for him to find his range early, to kind of buzz him and let him know if you cross the fray, you're going to get tagged with something. And listen, don't sleep on Randy Brown's submission game either. You know, he's got very, very long limbs. He's got chokes from standing positions. Like, he's very, very sneaky. Like, don't be surprised if Bonfim shoots in, he hooks him up with something. Like, Randy Brown's notorious for, you know, doing some, even if it's just a sweep or even it's just a threaten, you know, he's very, very slick with that stuff. But yeah, I could see situations where he does fade, but you got to put a certain kind of pace and a certain kind of fight on him. And like I said, and also you got to drown him a little bit. He's the type of guy where once he starts to lose his confidence a little bit, it may appear that he's getting tired, but it's almost like he's just trying to find another outlet. He's trying to find another route. So like I said, I think this is a great fight. I don't think you're wrong any which way you pick. If you pick Bonfim, I'm sure you could probably make me hop over the fence on that side. But for me, just the tape that I've watched, I just see more situations that Randy Brown can excel in this fight.
Yeah, I think he's in a way, the more dangerous fighter, right? From multiple phases. I'm glad you mentioned the submission because, by the way, plus 1,600 Randy Brown submission, I don't see how you don't sprinkle that because if he does win, yeah, you could one-shot him, but it's probably going to be a finish, and Bonfim's probably going to tire himself, right? Which is why I think round 3 is live because inconsistent Randy, win or lose Randy, he has, like I just said, he has this weird thing. Even when he has a really bad round 2, like he'll come out and pop round 3. So, you know, pre-flop round 3 Randy Brown, pre-flop sub Randy Brown. I think that's super live because we've seen tired guys that are good get subs. It's MMA folks, right? And Bonfim isn't exactly game over level. He's not like, not that this matters, but you know, he's not accoladed in or out of the gi with like multiple world championships, right? He's not second degree or third degree black belt, right? And his game isn't exactly game over. We've seen fighters that, you know, you could argue aren't as skilled as Randy Brown, be able to get up from bottom, survive. You know, even that Stephen Thompson fight, which is obviously controversial and really probably should have gone to Thompson, right? It wasn't like a huge gap in the round, right? But it was enough to justify scores for Thompson. Sympathies there, absolutely. But I do wonder, you know, you got to be careful about fading Bonfim just for that. I think the fighting terrain does favor him here. And again, they both have the same weaknesses going backwards, right? They both also have the same weaknesses as far as the gas tank. So even though I hate Bonfim in a 5-round fight, I'm like this. He's shown pace. He's shown pace improvements, by the way. Like he has a smaller sample than Randy, but thus far, I'm not saying those demons aren't still there. But thus far, he's shown trajectory of improvement, right? Whereas Randy, it's been frustrating. It's been slow, and you could argue he's kind of maybe already should have been there. And I'm not degrading Randy at all. I would love to see him come out this weekend. But holy, he's not going to love me because he got really mad at Nicholas Dalby of all people. Like, Nicholas Dalby, the Danish Dynamo, but he got mad at him and was all beefing in that last fight. And well, why was that? It's because Dalby pointed out the same thing I did. He didn't even mention the fence grabs. He just mentioned the eye pokes, right? Which is a problem. And I'm just so guys, with the luck that we've been seeing in MMA, I'm not even talking about the betting stuff, right? Like all the eye pokes we've been seeing and all the fouls and flukiness. Now we're back in the apex, the old trustworthy apex, and we're putting a guy who, by my count, again, hate me, Dan sucks, whatever. I watch a lot of tape and I give you guys actionable information. I've been picking near the 70th percentile in these main events through main cards through 25 and picks overall for what it's worth. So hate me, but just use the information to help you or make you sound smart, in some argument on Twitter. I don't care. But the fact is that you're telling me that one of the guys I haven't seen, one of the most foul heavy fighters I've seen since John Jones, even more so, is now in the main event. I don't like that. And we're going to talk about the fight shuffling, right? Some people, they denied Dante Johnson a step in for whoever it was, Joe Schmo, and then now it's Zach Reese. There's been 3 iterations on the bottom of the card here, guys. And with the Dante Johnson one, he either must have been really messed up for the commission, who rubber stamps one-eyed Bisping, guys with staph all the time, dudes with broken bones, right? We see it on a regular basis throughout the years, every era. When they don't rubber stamp something, especially in this era of rubber stamping literally everything for rollout, that's a flat, right? And someone said smartly, like, well, with the fight fixing allegations, I wonder if the commission and the officials now this is where I will get a little tinfoil cap. So forgive me and feel free to thrash me here, Mike, because this will be my last point before I push it back to you and we move on. But everyone, is going to be under, maybe under more scrutinous watch. And I don't want to feed too much of that narrative. But we just saw again in the rubber stamp rollout era, they actually did their job for whatever reason. Maybe Dante Johnson was really messed up, right? But they actually did their job. Now they are still putting a fight in, and it's not because they want to get the UFC wants to get Jackson McVeigh a win. Like, I hate that. It's like, no, they clearly want their schedule to go on, which is why they're doing this for an undercard, despite having a crazy crap fest last week where they got notified ahead of time and didn't have to. And they still went on with it. Again, the UFC schedule is king here, folks. Okay. But that being said, and with the debacles of not forget the betting stuff again, with all the referees, they do have meetings, folks. Like when we think that there's absolutely no accountability, not as much as we like, but they have meetings all the time and they enforce it. And we see them because it's human nature. They overcorrect the steering wheel, both in the scoring criteria to officiating in general to within a card. We see it week in, week out. So my point is, one thing I'm confident on, Mike, is that Randy Brown's gonna do himself a foul. And with the spotlight being on and the pressure being on, especially Nevada, who's been dropping the ball almost every card straight they've been at, right? I think a point actually gets deducted. The guy who is the referees will never take a point. I'm usually that guy, by the way. I'm actually going to bet the point. I'm only take 10 or 20 bucks, get you like, $200 to $400 or something, with the odds they put. You don't got to put a lot, but I'm going to sprinkle on that point deduction, Mike. Is that tinfoil hat crazy?
No, I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
All right. And fight ends by sub is something that I would look for the round robin, although it won't be too juicy because Bonfim sub is only plus 160, whereas I don't know how much the plus 1600 will factor into that. Yeah, you're going to get it for less of a price. So I'm on Bonfim and we're on Brown. So dissension is start. And Mike, as we roll here, you have to think of a proper punishment to pay off. We got some punishment payoffs, and we'll get to that at the end. All right. What's up, Brian D in the chat? We're going to move on to the co-main event here. Flyweights in the co-main event. Very surprising. Matt Schnell versus Joseph Morales. Now, both these guys have been in the UFC before. We got Joseph Morales getting heavy respect, minus 265, seeing that number inflate probably more where you guys are seeing it. Come back on the underdog, Schnell, plus 215 over 1.5 rounds. Totals are set for 1.5 with this flyweight fight, by the way. Which makes sense when we get into these fighters, but over 1.5, minus 170, under 1.5, plus 149. They're trying to tempt you on action, especially with the money lines being kind of out of whack. But I actually agree with the favorite here. Of course, Schnell, by the way, is 0-2 in that smaller octagon. 0-3 if you count the tough finale. And if we go back to the old, the old tough gym, he's 1-1 on his Ultimate Fighter series there. And of course, the loss comes to a non-UFC caliber guy who I don't even recognize, or the win comes against a non-UFC caliber guy who I don't even recognize, and the loss comes to a UFC caliber guy in Tim Elliott. So losing the UFC caliber guys in the small cage pretty consistently, Matt Schnell. Whereas Morales is technically 0-0, but he fought twice in that small cage on tough against one guy who got signed a contender series looked good, Emmanuel Rodriguez. That kid looked good. He beat him. So he's 2-0 in there. Mike, who do you got? Do you agree with the odds?
Yeah, I don't agree with the odds. I got to be honest with you. I think these odds are a little rich. I think that Matt Schnell is actually, for all the shit that we could talk about him, he's actually a good fighter. Technically, he's got some slick boxing. He's got some slick jiu-jitsu. He's athletic. He's sharp. He's fast. He works behind a good jab. Like, you could say a lot of good things about Matt Schnell. The downfall of Matt Schnell is what my grandfather used to tell me all the time: no chin, no win. This guy has zero ability to take a shot, but he fights like he could take a shot. He has his hands down, his head's on the center line. Like, he literally fights like he doesn't learn his lesson. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Like, a stiff jab can put you to the ground, but yet you're fighting like fucking Ray Mercer in there that you have an iron cast chin. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So I don't care how good you are. Anytime you're betting Matt Schnell, you have 15 minutes for him to get caught with a shot. And if he gets caught with a shot, the fight's probably over. I mean, I've seen him come back from the depths of hell in certain situations where you're like, holy shit, Matt Schnell just came back and won by submission. Yeah, it's great. But the fact of the matter is now you got to look at the other side of the ball. You got to look at who is he fighting. He's fighting, Joey Morales, who isn't known for knockout power. So that makes it a little bit more interesting now. Now you're saying, all right, well, he's only got 2 knockouts in his career. He's not a heavy puncher. He's got more submissions under his belt than knockouts. So now it makes it a little bit interesting because Matt Schnell's a very capable grappler, slick rapper on his ground himself. But the fact of the matter is, you don't need to be a knockout artist to knock out Matt Schnell. You can have 0 knockouts on your record. And if you catch him with a shot, chances are you could probably clip his wing and put him down. And then, do what you want from there. You jump him, you put him in, you grab one of his limbs, you could do something. So it doesn't have to be a situation where you're actually knocking him out. You could just put him in a bad position with a knockdown. And now, you're holding the ace of spade in your pocket. So it's tough for me to pick Schnell, and it's a bad situation to be in because I know how talented he is technically, offensively, but when it comes to his chin, it's just the biggest liability. So I just can't pick him here because I could see it's gonna be a situation where he's up 2 rounds to nothing, and then he gets clipped with a fucking shot, and the fight's over. So for as a betting man, if I had a gun to head, put money on this fight, as tempting as that line is, and let me tell you something, I won't be shocked if Matt Schnell ended up pulling off a win in this fight. I just can't pick him. I just don't trust his chin.
Yep. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think Morales is actually, at the minus 265 line parlay fodder. Now he's getting up to minus like 325 in some houses. That's where I start to back away, especially in a card like this where there's not a lot of you can get some low price favorites if you want to pair them like that way. But I haven't been a big parlay guy. I'm usually not a big parlay guy, even if I occasionally do a 2-legger like you Mike. We're pretty aligned there. Not that we don't do them. We're not being hypocrites here, but they shouldn't be your first or most confident options or heavily exposed options all the time. Let's just say that. I like fight ends by sub here. I don't have a line posted for the main. I just double checked, at least in the house that I play in, but it's plus 125 for fight ends and sub for this. And that is one of the few plays that I like for this one, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, you can also, if you want to get a little fancy and you really don't believe in his chin and you think Morales, is going to win this fight, you can go Morales by knockout. That's over plus 300. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I know he's not a knockout artist, but you don't need to be a knockout artist to knock out Matt Schnell.
Yeah, that's very true. He's been, knocked out by didn't he get knocked out from the bottom? I know we just broke down Randy Brown.
That's what I mean. You don't have to knock him out with a shot. Yeah. You can knock him out and jump him.
On the ground, even, on the ground and pound. We've seen him on both ends knocked out that way with some suspect ground and pound. No offense to Schnell, just it's what it is. That's
I
why the
like Matt
total was
Schnell.
set to 1.5. Yeah, and he's always fun, man. As far as the action he brings, but that 1.5 is the total for a reason, folks. So yeah, I'll go Morales. Probably fight ends by sub or something like that. Would be my will be my graph. All right, let's move down. We mentioned Muslim Salikhov before, former Randy Brown opponent. He is here and he is facing Southpaw, Uros Medic. Salikhov, of course, he is going to be your underdog, plus 155 and minus 185 for Uros Medic. I knew the odds, and I actually already have a play on this fight. And just to tell you maybe where the play is, I'm still surprised when I read the odds, if that says anything, Mike. Over 1.5 rounds, plus 140. Under 1.5 rounds, minus 160. Salikhov, 1-0 against UFC level lefties. And in the Apex, he is 3-2. One of those losses, of course, come into that picturesque against Randy Brown there. That picturesque knockout loss, of course. And his opponent, Medic, is 4-2 in that UFC Apex. 5-2 if you count his Dana White Contender Series fight for whatever that's worth. But yeah, no hiding it. I'm guessing I'm guessing you can guess that I like Salikhov here, Mike. And what are was that your guess? And regardless, what are your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, once you said you were shocked at the line. Yeah, I kind of thought so. I'm torn on this fight. I got to be honest with you, man, because I have a lot of respect for Medic. I have a ton of respect for Salikhov, but the problem I always have with these kind of fights is you got to keep it in your mind, like eventually the wheel's going to fall off. Like it just happens. And this guy's a decade older than Medic, and it's like if I'm going to put my money, he's DT. Am I correct? He's 42, right?
41 going on 42, I believe. But
Okay,
yeah,
so let's
let
just
me
round
get
it
an
off to
exact
40. Let's
gauge.
round it off to 42. So he's 42 years old. Like, when is the wheel going to fall off? It eventually is going to fall off. Now, if you know anything, if you've guys been watching, especially like boxing, because UFC is kind of newer, right? But if you've been watching boxing for years, you know, like one day a guy just steps into the ring and it's gone. Like there's no down taper, there's no, you can see minimal different declines and stuff, but sometimes they just step into the ring and it's gone. You know, when is that going to happen? Are there going to be minimal declines with him? Have we seen minimal declines with him? I can't say that I have. Like, I mean, the guy still looks sharp at 42 years old. He still looks good. Obviously, we know what a great striker he is, over 100, kickboxing fights. A guy super, super decorated. There's no style he hasn't seen or that he can't handle. But eventually what happens is your mind knows exactly what it has to do, but your body just says, fuck this, I can't react like I used to. And that's where the slowness comes in. That's where like a millisecond can be the difference between winning and losing a fight. So it happens to everybody. People with young, it happens to me. I'm in the gym sometimes with a young mind, and I'm like, dude, I would destroy that kid. Or I could bench 3 times with that kid when I was 20 years ago, and I forget in my mind 20 years ago. Then you try to do it and you tear a pec, or you try to do it and you get choked out, or you try to do it and a guy catches you with a shot that you haven't felt in 10 years. So it's like your mind knows what it has to do. Your mind knows the game, but your body's the one who has to react. So it kind of says sometimes, fuck that. Like I'm not in it tonight. That's what I fear with him. That's what I fear with this fight. Like eventually the downfall of Salikhov is going to happen. And Medic is a guy that absolutely can do that. Like, he's technical enough, he's talented enough, he's sneaky enough, he's fast enough. And it's hard for me to pick against Salikhov here, but I'm going to pick Medic here.
Wow, we're going head to head again. So that's two. We're gonna have some choices this week again, folks. So this is good. I like it. But yeah, I'm gonna go with a shout out to Pepe Silvia wherever he's at. He loves my soggy D specials. That's Dan Tom backing an old fighter at plus money, usually old Brazilians. But Salikhov's not a Brazilian, so Mike, yeah, I'm sure you're getting to know me by now, so I'm sure this doesn't surprise you on many levels. But yeah, I do like Salikhov. I've never been a big believer in Medic coming from that Alaska FC scene. I thought that the Cordero camp was a good fit for him, but things, obviously, we've talked about that. Cordero hasn't really been training fighters, and a lot of them have broke apart from RDA, Dariush. Again, a lot of Gaslam, a lot of these guys who really developed their southpaw pressure games, right? Would have been, but now he kind of jumps around. I'm not sure where he's at, and not sure where his confidence is at. He's coming off of a win, but that's Gilbert Urbina. against most decent competition, he loses. And again, I know it's 41. He just turned 41 in June, but it really doesn't matter. He might as well be 42, right? Once you're in your 40s, as a guy sadly just entered his 40s, I get it, but yeah, it hasn't shown to be there. And what I like is he's not just showing up for paychecks. Again, we talk about all the forms of I don't even want to use the word fight fixing for showing up for a paycheck, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not technically throwing a fight, right? We wouldn't characterize it as that, but at the same time, there's a lot of people we characterize as showing up for a paycheck, right? He's not really doing that, man. He's not sitting back in Russia and having to travel for these fights. He actually, about the start of this win streak, actually started training over stateside at high elevation at Denver, Colorado. Actually, I think at the same gym, Raquel Pennington, we'll talk about, Tecia Pennington, I should say. Both of them, but yeah, we'll talk about later on this card. Also trains out of there, so he's training with young people, even like UFC level people. By the way, like Drew Dober, that's a good southpaw to have. He's got guys like Neil Magny for the cage work and whatnot, which can be prevalent in these fights. Although Medic isn't a big threat there. And he's vocally stated, he's not trying to be a title contender or anything like that, but he's like, I think I can get a few more spin hook kick knockouts and knockouts to my highlight reel. That's what I want to do. And I'm like, that's really realistic. He's working hard to doing it. He's due for the bottom to drop out. You're absolutely right about that, Mike. No one can be confident, even someone like me, who, spoiler alert, is picking him and playing him here. But I got to play him here, Mike. You're giving me plus money on this. If it comes through, it'll make up for the favorite exposure, which is the exact same price tag in reverse. If you want to do the math on my other play here, my other straight play that I have for you guys, but yeah, give me Salikhov here. All right, let's keep it moving. We got Gabriel Bonfim's brother Ismael Bonfim versus Chris Padilla. This is a tough one for me, so I won't have too much to say on it because I feel like I'll just be crossing Chris Padilla here. I'll explain that in a second. Minus 195 for Ismael Bonfim, plus 165 to come back on Chris Padilla. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 133, under plus 113. Some Apex stats before I throw it your way, Mike. We got Bonfim 0-2 in the Apex, 1-2 if you count Dana White Contender Series. Whereas Padilla done well in the small cage, 2-0. Also fought a lot in the small cage outside the UFC as well. Has wins over UFC names, maybe not the most impressive names, but he's always been the underdog and he's always kind of overperformed. Where you have Bonfim, the guy who's arguably underperformed. He was thought maybe to be the better Bonfim brother, and well, he's not headlining this card, let's just say. Mike, what do you got for this one, man?
Yeah, this is interesting, right? Because we always talk about under and overperforming, and Chris Padilla, you got to wonder, is he overperforming or is he really that good? You know what I mean? The kid is explosive. The kid, yeah, mind you, he's not fighting the best competition in the world, but James Lontop, not a good fighter, but the dude is super tough and super durable. Rong Zhu, Jai Herbert, who I got a lot of respect for. Like, he's beating guys that aren't on the like, I don't consider Jai Herbert a guy that's sitting on the center line of regional and UFC. I consider him a good UFC fighter, for the time that he was there. And then when you go over to Bonfim, it's like both of the losses that he have are in the first round. And if you look at like Terrence McKinney, Chinny, Vince Michelle, love Vince Michelle, but older, it's like both of these guys don't give us enough really on the plate to say I have super confidence in either of these guys. I do agree that Bonfim, I think technical wise, probably in the gym when the lights aren't bright, he's probably the better Bonfim brother. He just hasn't proved it inside the cage. And Padilla, the verdict is still out on this guy. Like, eventually, if he keeps winning, we're going to have to give this guy the credit he deserves and say maybe he is good. I mean, we've seen this with numerous fighters, like where we're just like, I don't buy into him. I'm like, still not buying into it. So, and sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. This is a situation where I don't know if I could buy into Padilla yet. Like, I feel like I still have to see more, even though he's on a 3-fight winning streak, underdogs in all of them. He looks capable. He's athletic. He's explosive. He's got power. He's got some good grappling. Obviously, he submitted Lontop, even though it's not a big feather in the cap, but he's got the confidence to go for it. And then when you look at Bonfim, it's like, yeah, he does some nice things, but he also makes a lot of mistakes. So it's like I'm on two sides of the fence here. I'm on one guy in Padilla who maybe he is not overperforming, and maybe he is, and then Bonfim, maybe he's that guy who's super, super good in the gym, but when the lights are bright, he becomes a mediocre fighter. I don't know. So this is kind of a measuring stick for both of these guys for me. I'm going to go with Bonfim, but I would stay away from the betting window on this one.
Yeah, me too. And you can definitely defend Bonfim's losses. I mean, right? Like Saint Denis, that's not a bad loss in retrospect. I know BSD is a guy you got respect on, Mike, and have cashed on. And Nas is a guy, we both, got love for, as far as we rate him very high. And that was kind of a weird stoppage as well. I'm not saying that, Nas wouldn't have eventually won that fight or whatnot, or that it wouldn't have been competitive, but I'm just saying, they're not the worst losses in the world. So
no,
I'm
but the first round.
Yeah, no, they are. They're
first round. So you go from first round losses to really good guys, then you go to wins that, okay, Terrence McKinney, I don't consider it a great win. It's a typical second round finish.
Right.
If you survive, you're going to finish him in the second round. So
yep.
the blueprint is there, but we never saw him against give me a mediocre fighter. You're either getting finished quick by a good fighter, or you're beating guys that you really should beat. So it's
Yeah, the Vince Pichel, I mean, it's an advanced version of Vince Pichel. But I still respected that because it's a durable veteran.
Oh yeah, and for sure.
And me, I always love seeing guys have to pass those tests. So I do rate that, and I'll pick him here, but I'm not going to trust him at this price tag. I doubt you'll see him in a DOP parlay, which I'm thinking so far. Mike, just keep it in your head, just like with the betting payoffs. So we can make that a little quick at the end here. But I'm thinking maybe we anchor Morales with two juicy props that we like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can do that.
And then that'll make it for a nice total, fun parlay. But let's push on from the Bonfim and Padilla down to the main card to Ricky. He was Ricky Simon, but he's been winning again, so he's back to Ricky Simon. Ricky Simon versus Raoni Barcelos. Ricky Simon, vato. Minus 170 for Ricky Simon. Plus 140 the comeback on Raoni Barcelos. By the way, my dog's name is Brownie, and I do the Brazilian, nicknames and stuff. And I basically, how I say Brownie in my bad Portuguese accent is how I imagine you pronounce Raoni Barcelos. So I got love for Raoni for many reasons. Minus 240 is the over 2.5 rounds. I know Mike has respect for Raoni Barcelos too, so I'm curious to hear his take. Under 2.5 rounds plus 200. That under looks juicy because both these guys, as much as we love them and as hard of fighters as they will fight, and much as they deserve your respect, we've seen the proverbial bottom drop out from them as well. Whether Ricky Simon can get clubbed, and Barcelos, where his chin's at, we've seen that kind of off switch be hit as well. By the way, Simon is 2-2 in the UFC Apex. 3-2 if you count his Dana White Contender Series fight. Of course, that was actually in the old Tough Center, but the same size cage. You see why I add the stat there. Whereas Barcelos also 2-2, whereas he's 3-2 if you count a tough finale fight. He was one of the rare fighters to fight in the smaller cage in the pre-pandemic era, but not going way back where the smaller cage was used a lot, like from 2015 prior. He was in the window where the small cage was barely used, but he's got a stat there. He's got a win there. That was that Kurt Hollabaugh, that impressive win. Mike, what do you got on this fight? I'm excited for your take on this one, man.
Yeah, man, I'm a big Raoni Barcelos guy, just for the mere fact that I feel bad for him. This is a guy where when he was younger, not younger, but during the meat of his career, man, this guy just was ignored. I mean, this guy was literally ignored. He could be on a 6-7 fight win streak, and the UFC would ignore this guy and put him on the lower bracket of the prelims. They could not give him this guy a big fight. And it kind of, his career passed him by. And then as time went on, obviously your legs start getting old. You start becoming a little war torn. You start losing fights. And now you just become a guy on the roster, which is a shame because Raoni Barcelos at one time was a bona fide beast. Ricky Simon, the same thing. The thing what happened with Ricky Simon was from the guy who was like a D-level Marab, if you really think about it. When I say D-level, I mean like a very amateur. He had that kind of pace and that pressure where you knew he was going to go in there, he was going to secure some takedowns, he was going to be in your face nonstop. He had a pretty good gas tank. He kind of left that. And I don't know if it's maybe because of his age. You got to kind of start adjusting things after a while, but he left that. He seems to be coming back to it a little bit. He seems to be getting his legs back under him, seems to have confidence in his game a little bit more. But when I look at Barcelos and I look at his last couple fights, you got to wonder, is this guy getting some new air a little bit? And I think that if you take both of these guys in their prime, which you can't, but if you take both of these guys in their prime, it's a minus 400 on the Barcelos side, for me. So when I look at this fight, I'm saying if you're giving me Raoni Barcelos, who's looked really good in his last two fights. Like I said, I'm not gonna say he looks reborn. He doesn't look like the old Hany Barcelos, but he does look like he's fighting for something at this point. He almost looks like he has a chip on his shoulder. He's just not going in there to fight. And it could be because maybe he knows his career is coming to an end. He's trying to bank some paychecks. He's trying to maybe possibly get some win bonuses and stuff like that. This does start creeping into a fighter's mind. Like, where do I go from here once this is all said and done? You're not the Dustin Poiriers of the world. You're not the Daniel Cormiers of the world where you're kind of set up and your purses are done. And if you retire, you're good to go. You got all these endorsements. What endorsements is Hany Barcelos getting? What endorsements is Ricky's? Like, what endorsements are these guys really getting? So these guys have to fight for their money. And the only way to continue to stay on the roster and continue to fight is to perform. So these guys are coming in to fight. And I do think that Barcelos got a chip on his shoulder. I think people are overvaluing Ricky Simone's wrestling and undervaluing Hany Barcelos' wrestling in this fight. Yes. And I think a lot of people are looking at Ricky Simone going, oh, his wrestling, his takedowns. And they're not looking at how good and how seamless of Hany Barcelos' entries and his wrestling really, really is, how quick and snappy he can be once he starts to find your hip. So for me, if you're giving me Hany Barcelos, like if Hany Barcelos was the favorite and the line was flipped, I would say the value is probably on Ricky Simone. But you're giving me Hany Barcelos at dog money. Give him to me. Give him to me all day in this fight.
I'm glad you said that, man. So I had Hany Barcelos at plus 140 kind of in my window. And yeah, I wanted a little better line, and I can grab one right now. But here's what kind of sold me on it, Mike, is that absolutely the wrestling thing, right? That wrestling equation, undervaluing and overvaluing. And I think what we're going to get is a wash, right? Because if you look at Ricky Simone, when he would, or we look at Hany Barcelos, I think if this fight goes to the decision, and again, I'm not a big fan of the UFC stats or whatever, but when you have fighters like this who actually have decent sample sizes, those stats tend to weigh a little bit more. Again, they're still drawn from a faulty well of information. They don't tell the whole story, so be careful. But they do tell us a little more, and I don't even have to tell you to look at the stats to tell you that Hany Barcelos should be close to double as far as output. I'm not sure about landed, but as far as what he's putting out there to be judged, right? The problem is that his chin can go anytime, and Ricky Simone, whether he's on or off, he does have power, right? And he's shown that multiple times throughout his career. Even some of his submission wins, if you go back and watch the tape, they're clubbing subs, right? But that's where his grappling, it's more opportunistic, as far as offensive opportunism. The grappling that's given Hany Barcelos trouble, it's not just grappling, it's good counter grapplers who also can match his output on the feet, which is guys like Victor Henry, Umar Nurmagomedov, right? Those guys fit that bill. That kind of makes sense. And I know Umar knocked him out, so he didn't have to outwork him. But let's be honest, it could have been another classic Umar decision if he didn't knock him out, right? So that's kind of the book on Hany. So I don't think he's getting outworked. I think if it goes to a decision, I think your Hany bet. Out of principle, you want the plus money when it goes to the realm of the MMA judges, right? I think we all can agree on that. But even breaking it down stylistically, right, Mike? If this goes to the decision, I think Hany Barcelos' chances of winning have gone up, and that probably means something went wrong for Simone, right?
Yeah, agreed on. And listen, Ricky Simone, despite when he doesn't get, like I said, he's usually the one pressuring, but he is accepting of position when you put him in a bad position, where Hany can be at times, but he's a little bit more squeamish when he's put into bad positions. He will try to escape instead of just trying to survive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what makes me feel better about, and I don't always do this, right? It's context and money, right, Mike? Like with the other week with Verna Jandiroba, I failed on the Jandiroba play, but I had the points handicap, right? You missed on your rakeage play, but you had fight didn't go the distance, right? And we're not big hedge guys or whatever. We're not doing that. But if the context and the numbers make sense, then yes. And I think this is another one, Mike, where you look at the under here, because how is your Hany Barcelos bet losing most times? It's because he got finished, right?
Yeah,
So if you're getting close to plus 150 right now on Hany Barcelos, folks, you can put a unit on that, right? And you only have to put a half unit on the under at plus 200. And I think you have a chance at cashing both, because again, Hany Barcelos can catch Ricky Simone, can club and sub him as well. He's got knockout power, he's got ground and pound power, he's got submission power, right? And if he does lose, well, he's probably losing with the under, right? So either way, you're covered there. And if he wins by decision, Well, guess what? You're still clearing roughly a unit anyways, right? Because his money line is like plus 145, plus 150-ish, right? So I don't know. Does that logic make sense for you, Mike? Because that's what I'm laying right here.
Yeah, fucking Ricky Simone looks like fucking Ed Gain in that fucking picture, dressed up like a woman.
He does.
Jesus
It is a terrible.
Christ.
That is a
And Hani
terrible
Barcelos
picture of
looks like an
Simone.
old Mexican grandmother, dude. Holy shit, dude.
That's the ESPN UFC stock headshot. That's not me. I didn't.
No,
try to
I
make
know.
the
I'm
man
just
look
saying.
bad.
They look like two fucking. It looks like a fucking circus fight.
That's great. There's only going to be a few more fights that we'll probably touch on as much, but let's push on, guys. We got the last fight here on the main card. We got Marco Tulio. I know Mike's probably going to be maybe Jared. I don't know how old he is. We'll get that reference there. But that'd be great if he came out to Phil Collins, by the way. Tulio is your favorite. Minus 195 over CLD Christian Leroy Duncan plus 165. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 130. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 110. We got the Apex stats here. Tulio 1-0 in the Apex, 3-0 if you count Dana White's Contender Series. Remember, Tulio had to fight twice in the Contender Series, and one of those victories aged even better as it was against Yusri Belgari, who looked great against Bekoev a couple weeks back, right? Whereas CLD, he is 3-1 in that octagon with that I believe that's his lone UFC loss that should be there. Is it a lonely UFC loss? I apologize. No, it's not his lone UFC loss. He has two. He's Gregory Rodriguez, and he also lost to Armin Petrosian, and that's the one he lost in the Apex. CLD proved me wrong last time as far as the fact that I picked him. That wasn't the issue against Eric Anders, but I was super confident, Mike, if you remember, on the over. I was like, oh, yeah, over. Typical Eric Anders fight. And CLD, it's a lot of like leaf blower. It's a lot of fluff, right? And not that he can't hurt you, not that he's not athletic, but guys like me and you will critique people who are missing the fundamentals and foundation, but goes out there, gets a flashy win. So I was actually surprised not to see more love on him here, Mike. I was actually hoping for more love, but yeah, what are your thoughts on this one, buddy?
This one is really fucked up. I'll tell you that right now. This is a fight where I went back and forth on because when I look at CLD, I look at a guy who, even with him winning, he is underperforming. Like, I know the talent that this guy has. He's a very smooth mover. He's got a good reach. He's athletic. He's a switch fighter. Like, the guy's got the tools. The guy has the tools to be a really good fighter. Then you add that element into the way he moves, the way he flows, the way he utilizes the real estate of the cage. And you're saying, all right, well, now it's in the apex. Now he's going to be trapped down a little bit. Now he's going to be kind of on a cul-de-sac where he's not going to have all the room to move and do the things that he wants to do, the ability to escape if he gets stung. Like, there's a lot of factors involved with people who like to move and flow. Those little gaps of real estate that's taken away from you, you got to remember it's taken away on every side of that octagon, which closes it in quick. So you could look at maybe a portion of it and say, well, the warning track really isn't that much shorter. Yeah, but do that on every portion of the octagon, and now that thing is kind of small. I was at the apex. I saw the difference in cage size, and it's very small. I mean, when you're in there, it's almost like the cameras on TV make it look a lot bigger than it actually is. It's very, very small. So that does concern me with a guy like Tulio, who really does have sharp hands. He's another guy, though. It's almost like, is he overperforming? Is he really that good? Has he literally blown me away in some of his fights? Some of them are super, super impressive, but there's something about Christian Leroy Duncan in this fight that my eye just keeps going back to him. He's got such a slick way about him when he's confident in his hands, and he's got everything moving in his direction. Everything's flowing the right way. Can Marco Tulio put a wrench in that and just kind of push forward and enter that fray and take that away from him? Absolutely. But the one thing about CLD, he does fight pretty well off his back foot, and he does have ability to switch. And we haven't really seen Tulio in a really terrible situation yet. Christian Leroy Duncan throws good combinations. He's got speedy hands. He's got good pop. He knows how to finish. He knows how to tie things together. And like I said, the switch in the stances can and will throw you off if you don't know how to adjust. So this is another fight where, like, honestly, I have this lined Marco Tulio the favorite, but definitely not this much of a favorite.
Yes.
But for my money, this is another fight. For my money, if I have to throw money at the wall or I have to go to the window, I'm going Christian Leroy Duncan.
So is it a dog or pass spot? Is your official pick on Tulio?
Yeah. No, I'm not taking. I'm not taking two.
Okay.
Yeah, dog or pass. I'm going to take Christian Leroy Duncan.
Wow, respect. I'm not as bold. I agree with your analysis, by the way. I agree with all that, but I'm gonna go, even though he's less proven, even though I haven't lined less, I am gonna go with Tulio here. But I was about to say it's dog or pass, and I would actually look at I'm trying to look at Christian Leroy's decision.
Well, I got to make a pick. I don't want to be, you know what I mean. I got to make a pick.
No, I appreciate it, man.
Because if I say dog or pass and then Tulio wins, I'll be like, well, I told you dog or pass. You know, or I mean, if CLD wins, I told you dog or pass. So if I'm going dog or pass, I'm just going to lean the dog. But like I said, for me, I wouldn't go near this fight. I wouldn't go.
I know. No, I respect that. Although I will say, in our defense, Mike, we're not you know, I mean, well, people find me obnoxious, but I would say I don't think we're obnoxious winners in that respect. A, and B, we're both not beyond taking big dogs. You know, I've definitely taken my share. You've taken your share.
I got like 3 already.
Yeah, you were on that crazy dog run. In fact, remember where you were hitting like big, like not just dogs, but like big unpopular dogs.
Yeah.
Like that other people weren't on. So. In our defense, Mike, if I can say that, but I do appreciate you doing that, though, acknowledging that. All right, let's push on, but real quick, I just want to find that decision line. They got it all spaced out around here. It's terrible. Someone else find it. I'm gonna go to the next fight here. I can't do that at once. We're gonna go get to the prelims. You got Jamall Emmers versus Hymer Amil. This is a fight I was looking forward to talking to, anyways. Hymer Amil minus 140 for the Filipino Chad Chin, Dominic Cruz looking guy who trains out of San Fran there with Gilbert Melendez, and Jamall Emmers come back on him plus 120. 2.5 is totals for this fight, over 2.5 plus 165, under 2.5 minus 190. I got some Apex stats for you, of course, as I do. Emmers 2-1 in that Apex. 2-2 if you consider Dana White Contender Series. Remember, he got knocked out there by Julian Juicy J. Arosa. And Amil, well, his cage suits well to the small cage, and the stats reflect that as well. He's 3-0 in that UFC Apex, 4-0 if you want to count Contender Series. Jamall Emmers, he's facing a fighter who's a switch stance fighter, but we've seen Hymer Amil be a southpaw primary switch stance fighter when he's facing an orthodox fighter like Emmers. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that maybe test the southpaw look, which Emmers really hasn't had to deal with in his career. A little bit with Giga Chikadze in a fight that he could have won, but for the reason why I don't pick Emmers, kind of similar to my trepidations about Randy Brown. Not that he fouls, but that he makes really poor fight IQ, way more than Brown. Maybe unfair to compare Brown, but yeah, inconsistent in that nature. So I've cashed some nice tickets against some Pat Sabatini and other fighters because I feel like Jamall Emmers has been overvalued. I don't think that's the case anymore. But yeah, I'm gonna play against him here. I missed the dog line. Of course, Hymer Amil actually opened as a big dog, but again, it's one of those line moves where like it drops right away, Mike. But I'm sure on everyone's Bet MMA tips, they're gonna be like, oh, I got Hymer Amil when he was plus 150 if he wins, right? But yeah, I took him at a bad line move, but yeah, minus 150, 1.5 units. Hopefully, it'll at least pay off either the Salikhov or the Barcelos straight play if it hits there. Mike, what do you got for this fight?
Yeah, Jamall Emmers is the lighter version of Kennedy Njoku. That's basically what he is. He is. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world, but it has zero confidence in his abilities. And we talked about that when Kennedy fought the last time. I said, picture, if you will, like when you guys were in grammar school, right? You had that one kid that was super athletic, super big, but he was like an oaf. Like you could push him around. He didn't know how tough he was. He didn't know how strong he was. He didn't know he could dunk a basketball. Like he didn't know all these things about himself. You know, but he had the attributes. You saw it, I saw it, we all saw it on the playground, but you could push him around, you could bully him around. That's what Kennedy is. Kennedy was the same thing. Like when he was in the cage, you could kind of push him around. He looked like he was, and then all of a sudden he would snap and he would lose it and he'd knock a guy out or something. But Jamall Emmers is the same thing. He's like, this guy came into the UFC with so much talent, so much like upside. And it's not there for him. Like it's not that he mentally checked out. I think his confidence is kind of shot. Even when he wins fights, he hasn't impressed me in a very long time. Like I had high hopes for Emmers coming in. You know, I thought Emmers was going to be a contender in the division as he was coming up, and he's just disappointed me even in wins over and over and over and over and over again. And when you look at a guy like Hymer Amil, sure, he was on the wrong end of a knockout. He got caught. Okay, got it. But this dude is tough and this dude is confident, and that's the difference here. You can have the edge and talent, athleticism, and physical attributes like Emmers does have against most opposition. But if you don't have the confidence to utilize those weapons, they're pointless to have. It's almost like having a gun that doesn't have a bullet. You can have the nicest gun in the world. I don't give a fuck if you have an army guns, but if you got no shells for the shotgun, what the hell's the point? And it's the same thing with Jamall Emmers. He's got all these tools and all these weapons, but it's almost like his confidence doesn't allow him to use it, where Hymer Amil's going to be putting on that pressure. Hymer Amil's going to go into that cage on Saturday night saying, I'm going to win this fight. And I think he's going to.
Yep. I don't disagree with any of that. I love the analogies too, as well, by the way. Great analogies on that analysis, Mike. Yeah, he's a guy, that'll fight for your money. I know we both technically picked against him last time out, but I'm a big fan of this guy. He cashed. He gave me my my G-Dub Bush moment. We got a moment against Gomes and ended that fraudulent winning streak. I love me Hymer Amil. So, but you got to know, like we said, Mike, you can't just pick someone because they made you money, even though sometimes it does work out, and we're all prone to do that. I'm not hating, right? I'm just saying, sometimes the test is to know when to get off the train, when to get on, when to get off, right? That's kind of that's the whole game here, right? You could be dangerous just betting with your fandom. That's how you go broke real fast, betting too much with your heart there. So yeah, but maybe I'm doing that here. But I genuinely, again, these are both reads I've been validated on, both with Amil and with Emmers separately. So when you get two fighters that you've been strong on, unlike the previous fight, well, yeah, then give me Amil. Let's push on here down to the prelims. Another one that's got again live dogs all over the place. Maybe that kind of points my hand, but we've got Mayra Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Cavalcanti is coming in here as your favorite, minus 265. The comeback on Mayra Bueno Silva, plus 215. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 380. Boy, are they stacking those castle walls. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 303. So, Mike, I was looking at her points handicap, but something I noticed about all the points handicaps, did you notice this too? Did they not stack the castle walls even higher on the points handicaps, Mike? Did you notice that this week?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah,
they made them all unbettable.
They're not stupid. They know. I mean, they even made some of the points handicap like 7.5. Like it used to be 3.5, 5.5. Now you see some of them 7.5, and it's crazy. It's like they're really trying to come on. Let me bait you in, because people are winning with the 3.5s. People are getting smart and privy to that because the content's out there. We give the content. I give the content. You could do the research yourself. Like the content is out there. History doesn't, historical data sometimes will work in situations like this, and they're probably, I know for us, we're hitting at a huge clip with the points handicap when we use the show. When we use them, right? When we use them. So it's like now they're saying, okay, well, we're going to give you better. We're going to stack the walls on that, but we're going to give you better odds on a fight that we think is going to go to the finish. We think that's definitely going to finish, but we're going to give you 7.5 to make it look like, oh my God, all he has to do is win a round. So you got to be careful now with the points handicap because they're getting smart on it too.
Yep, absolutely they are. And you know what? Even though it sucks, I also kind of take that as a bit of validation, Mike. You know what I'm saying? This isn't the first trend that's coincided that we both have called previously, and so and the cards have coincided and fell forth as so. Just want to put that out there. But
Kunith, minus 7.5 is so lame. It is, but you got to remember, Kunith. There are people out there that listen. There's a reason why parlays are so enticing, right? They say in the gambling world that parlays is the sucker bet, and I do agree. I am a firm believer that parlays are sucker bets. Do I do them? Yes, I do them. They say the same thing with teases. They're sucker bets. They entice you, hence the name tease. So they tease you. The same thing with 7.5. They're looking at historical data saying this fight is not going to the cards, but if we offer this guy 7.5. The chances are there's going to be a lot of people in the community that are going to take a stab on it. It's easy money for them. So you just got to be very, very careful. They're going to drop the ball. They're going to drop the ball in spots. They do every card. You just got to be careful and got to be weary of it.
All right, but as far as this fight goes, basically here, I think Bueno Silva's live. She's really inconsistent, has fought very bad. But here's the thing about inconsistent fighters, right, Mike? I'm the least fan of variance out there using that word. But there is variance in consistent fighters. For as bad as they are, they have bounce back spots. And at these odds, I feel like this is just asking for a bounce back spot. Mayra Bueno Silva has let me down a lot, but she's also come through with me a lot, right? She's 4-1-2 in the Apex. With Dana White Contender Series, she's 5-1-2. But guys, those two in the North column. One's a no contest for some Adderall medicine. She choked out Holly Holm. And the other was a draw where it was ridiculous. I mean, she made bad decisions and ended up on bottom and had some bad optics, but she beat the piss out of Montana De La Rosa, who I know her face gets messed up every fight, but boy, was it messed up. You go back and watch that fight, she's basically 7-1 in that octagon. Who's a loss to Manon Fiorot, who is more of a flawed fighter, maybe not as much of a complete fighter as Jacqueline Cavalcanti, but not only is Fiorot more proven to kind of prove this point I'm about to say, but my point is that fight makes sense for her to lose A. B, it was actually much closer than when you go back to watch, especially the kicks that Silva offers at range that not a lot of these girls offer, and none of the girls that Cavalcanti has faced are just going to offer. And Cavalcanti, although she's got size, athleticism, well-roundedness, decent output on the feet, a lot of those base bare bones things that could maybe parallel a Fiorot, she doesn't have that same style. She's going to be more hittable and beatable by the nature of her footwork, which isn't terrible, but she's more plotting. She's going to be right in front of you. And that small cage is going to introduce some chaos, which could favor the fighter who can finish from the clinch, standing positions, head kicks, leg kicks, arm bars off her back. She's going to be live, even though she can be kind of crazy to watch. So give me Silva here. I'm not going to play it straight. I haven't yet, I should say. At this number, I'm probably just going to look to throw her in a round robin or something like that, Mike.
Yeah, listen, I don't blame you. I just look at this line. I think it's a little trappy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think when you look at Bueno Silva at that price tag, and you look at the level of opposition that she faced, you're like, well, can this be? Sometimes things are too good to be true. And I look at that line and I saw it. I was like, wait a minute, what? But I revert back and I go to see the level of opposition. Like if you look at the last five, she lost to JJ, she lost to Macy Chiasson, she lost to Pennington, the no contest with Holm. But the only fight in that five, I mean, Holly Holm wasn't really Holly Holm anymore at that point. But when you look at the one win, it was Lena fucking Landsberg. You know what I mean? Like Lena Landsberg is not a good fighter. You know, so she's losing to top level girls and she's beating the lowest of the low, but she's tough. I mean, she comes from that real tough, background. She's been in some wars. She's been in some big spots. We've seen, even though she lost, it doesn't matter. That's all experience. When I look at Cavalcanti, I look at her as the younger, fresher, better fighter in this spot who really should win this fight. But my only pause with picking her in this fight is that she makes things a little bit closer than they should be. If you look at her for her last four, I mean, two of them have been split decisions. You don't see that every day.
Yep.
That means she's letting girls back into the fight, or she's fighting down or up to just where she needs to kind of edge things out. You don't want to do that with somebody as seasoned and has the cage time as someone like Bueno Silva, because she will find ways to win minutes in those situations. That's what scares me there. When you're in a fight with somebody like as seasoned as Bueno Silva, if you're neck and around, they know these things to do to win minutes. They know where they are in the round. They can kind of decipher which way around is going because they've been in there. They've done it for so long. They've done it against the highest level of opposition. So that does scare me with Cavalcanti. I still have to pick her, though. I just feel like Bueno Silva's time is kind of passing. You know what I mean? Like I understand it's female MMA. I understand that it's different. Like, these girls have so many, ways to win and so many ways to revive their careers. Look at someone like Tecia Pennington and stuff like that. But it's just a spot where I think she's going to come in behind the eight ball here, and I think she's going to end behind the eight ball here. So I'm going to go with Cavalcanti, but I would not go near this. I wouldn't tie her into parlays. I wouldn't go because I do think Bueno Silva is very live.
100%. Yeah, that's a very fair breakdown and very justified as well. Let's try to get these last four in under 10 minutes, Mike. I think we can do that, especially with this next one. We got Josh Hokit coming off the Dana White Contender Series. I covered him over at LFA and kind of got one of the first tastes of his personality. And I actually, from a stylistic perspective, liked his perspective as far as like he looked at the guys like Daniel Cormier. Now you see him actually going out to the Daniel Cormier Wrestling Center. By the way, Josh Hokit is going to be your favorite here. A decent clip. Money was coming in on the dog, though, but we'll see. Minus 400 for Hokit. Max Gimenis, who I actually got some information on for you guys. I'll give you in a second here. Plus 300. Over 1.5, plus 105. Under 1.5, minus 125. That makes sense, but if I were to play anything on this fight, obviously the pick's going to be Hokit here, but the money line is stupid. I would look at the over because Gimenis is slow, and this could be a fight where Hokit can maybe dust off his developing striking. But Max Gimenis is a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, longtime grappler. He's lost most of the good names he's faced, Mike. But even having like a points loss to Buchecha, like not getting finished by Buchecha is something, right? And he's competed against the CGIs, against top guys there, Nicky Rod and whatnot. And again, most of these are losses when he gets to the bigger name guys, right? But he is a really decent grappler, teaches jiu-jitsu, big guy, walks around 275, 285, whereas Josh Hokit looks like he can make light heavyweight, man. He looks even lighter going into this fight, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but size at a certain point, does come into play in certain situations. Gonna pick Hokit here, but I will say that they're not just bringing in a nobody. I will say that I'm not picking Gimenis, but yeah, they're not bringing in a nobody. What do you got, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I the same thing. When you got to remember, when you got a guy who's raw, both of these guys are raw, but when you got a guy who's like a character like Hokit, who's coming in, he's got that like professional wrestler like persona about him with the bandana and stuff like that. It's great. It's cool. It's fun. It's almost like a little spin-off of a Nate Landwehr type of thing. But when you got a situation where you're fighting a guy who does have a very good grappling background to him and can be dangerous there, you got to kind of pull back your punches a little bit. You can't just overcommit because you can find yourself in a really, really bad spot. So, I'm obviously going Hokit here, but I could see a situation like you said where he's kind of playing paw. He's playing a little tentative with him, trying to feel him out a little bit, trying to protect his hips, trying to keep this thing standing. And listen, it's at the end of the day, when those lights are on, sometimes, you walk into an arena with people screaming in your like full-blown debut, and it's different because there's distractions there. You don't feel like everybody is on you when you go into that Apex Center and the lights turn on and the cameras are on, and I've been in there. It's a pin drop fucking silent. It's all about you. You know what I mean? So sometimes being in a situation like that is worse than being in an actual arena where there's noise around, there's commotion going on. He could fumble the ball. He could fumble the ball here. You could, it's very, very possible. So whenever you get two guys like this, 6-0, 6-1, coming in, like this, there's no minus 400 is justifiable. Like, it's just not to me. So for me, it's a clear pass.
Absolutely. And there's going to be another fight that's like that. We'll get to that shortly. Tecia Pennington, though, faces Denise Gomes. Real curious what you got for this one. I'm a big Tecia Pennington fan. Her record is much better than it is. Again, the Dern versus Pennington is the robbery of the year every year. Shout out to the PYM boys who know what's up. Plus 160 is the comeback for Tecia Pennington. Denise Gomes came through with me with their round 2 finish last time. My good old round 2. Minus 190 for Denise Gomes. Over 2.5, minus 350, under 2.5, plus 280. The fighting terrain, if I want to keep that same energy, does favor Gomes. I don't actually have those stats for you up right now. I'm still actually in the middle of taping this fight and these ones at the bottom here. Check me out for free at Dan Tom MMA on Substack, where I give you the Southpaw stats, the Apex stats, analysis, picks, plays, all that in the bunch. And you don't have to hear my voice. It's beautiful. But yeah, man, I'm a big Tecia Pennington fan, but at the same time, this is a tough match for her. At least early on, I think that she does have a chance to pull away, and I'm leaning toward her. But I don't know if I would bet her, Mike. Or I'm running to the window to bet her, especially at this number, even at like a plus 150. But I would maybe look more for a decision because it's death taxes and Pennington by decision. Not that she can't finish, right? I love to, as a Tecia fan, give her more equity than most there. But let's be real, right? And especially against this opponent, unless it's like a round 3 or a decision prop, maybe you have that option. But I'm just going to look at Pennington by decision. Mike, what do you got for this fight?
Yeah, I'll keep it kind of short. So when you look at this fight and you look at Tecia Pennington, if you're going to bet her, you'd be foolish not to bet her by decision. Or if you get the 3 or decision, she's really not. I mean, how many people is she really finishing in her career? And it's because she's undersized. She's a natural atom weight. You know what I mean? So you got to remember when she came over from atom weight, into the UFC, they didn't have that division. So she's fighting over her head as it is. When you look at Denise Gomes, like she got her kind of her staple, she got her notoriety with the Yaragui fight. I think she was a big underdog in that fight. She won that fight. She beat Moore. She beat KK, who, let's face it, I mean, I love KK to death, but KK is really not KK anymore. She beat Reed. The one girl that she did lose to, though, is Angela Hill, somebody who knows how to spit volume, somebody who knows how to box, somebody who knows how to move. And that's what Tecia Pennington does so well. She's got great takedown defense. She's got a very good volume when she needs to. She's got good boxing. She's very durable. The problem with Tecia Pennington is sometimes she can frustrate you. Sometimes there are situations in the fight where you're just like, what, like, give me a little bit more. Give me a little, because she has it. The girl keeps her body in spectacular condition. She's always in shape. So she takes care of her temple, and she's younger than her years in fighting, because she's never really took a ton of damage. Like, if you really watch her fight, Tecia Torres has never taken a ton of damage. Not that there's a ton of damage to be taken in that division, but she never has. She's got all the tools to win this fight. And she has all the tools to win this fight by decision. But she's got to weather a storm, like you said. She's got to weather, a storm by Denise Gomes, and she has to stay on her bike in this fight. She has to kind of play matador. And I know the cage is small, and I know that you're gonna have limited room and limited space to, once you hit that warning track, you got to kind of move laterally. But I still have faith in Tecia Torres. I really, really do. I still have faith in her. So it's something I'm willing to look at and take a bet with her by decision.
Awesome. I think I already got the DOP in our head, so we'll have some time saved as we're 10 minutes out from that, Mike. So let's push on. We both got the dog here, Tecia Torres. Perhaps another live dog. Speaking of points handicaps, he came through with me, not as a dog play, but Miles Johns came through with the points handicap last time out. He is still an underdog here. Opened at plus 250 now into the plus 145 range, where Marcos maintains his favorite status at minus 170, over 2.5 rounds, minus 300, under 2.5 plus 245. They stack the castle walls and the totals. I already checked the points handicaps, Mike. They stack the walls there, but I do like Johns. And the same thing with the money I already got exposed. I'm not, rushing to, play NBA. I'm not rushing to play Tecia, and I'm not actually rushing to play Johns, even though I think he's live at a less number. But, you give me 2-1 when you turn it into Tecia by decision. You give me 2-1 odds when you turn it into Johns by decision. Well, I think Johns by decision is the way to look if you're looking at this fight, even if you're picking Marcos. Perhaps I'm wrong. Maybe you have a strong feel on Marcos here, Mike. But what do you got?
Yeah, I'm either gonna shit the bed in the biggest way possible this week, or I'm gonna look like a fucking. I'm going with the dog again. I'm going with Miles Johns. I just look at him as, his durability. He's another guy. He frustrates the shit out of you sometimes. Like, this is a guy who never even went to college because he wanted to become a fighter. He had scholarships to go wrestle in college, and he dedicated his life to fighting. And it's like, all right, well, if you're dedicating your life to fighting, why are you underperforming in so many situations? Why are you? But when he doesn't underperform and he actually fights to his ability, Miles Johns is pretty good. And his durability is the one thing that does keep him in his fight, his ability to wrestle. He's going to have to really push a pace in this fight. He's really going to have to, not fall in love with his hands with someone like Daniel Marcos, because Daniel Marcos will spit fire back at you. If Miles Johns can start leaning on that wrestling that got him here a little bit and kind of push the pressure and kind of, nullify Marcos's confidence. And listen, if I throw, there's a possibility he's going to change levels and get my hips. I think Miles Johns got a great chance in this fight. I really, really do. So I'm going to go Miles Johns by decision. But like I said, I think I got like 6 dogs on this card. This is going to go one way or the other for me.
Yeah, you got to pick your spots for sure. Like if I don't have room in the round robin, and Johns is probably a dog that, even though he's not a good price, I would probably be more apt to play him than Tecia or NBA, Mayra Bueno, for example. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, that's awesome, man. We got 2 choices for the Benji Boy dog of the week, although I think I know which one we're going because of the name value there. But let's go to this last fight. Jackson McVeigh, who they're keeping on the card. No, folks, not with that analysis we hear every week. I'm sure you hear where it's like, oh, the UFC wants this guy to, they're just trying to get him a win here. Like, no, they're not trying to get Jackson McVeigh a win here. But, back remember when they used to give like 3 opponent changes in like a couple days when it was like, remember it was Khabib Iaquinta at the top of the card. Now here we are on Fight Night cards, Fight Night Apex cards, going through multiple opponents just to keep Jackson McVeigh afloat. He's going to be facing Zach Reese. We don't got odds or anything like that. But yeah, that's going to be a fight that regardless of what they put the odds on, you're not going to want to touch. Do you have any opinion on that, Mike?
0.
Awesome here. Okay. Before we recap and whatnot, let's just real quick, Mike, as far as bets go, I forgot to give you Irreversible when you were in town. I'm going to go ahead and mail that to you free of charge. And the second movie, since we're past Halloween, I'm just going to try to assign you something that like I think will torture you a bit. Have you seen the movie I Love Philip Morris?
No.
I never seen it either, but apparently there's some like gay sex in there. So I just
what the fuck do you want me to watch that for?
It's not the whole movie, it's just part of the movie, Mike. It's supposed to be a good movie.
He wants me to watch gay sex, he says.
I was gonna.
You know what movie you'd really like, Madlab, is this one. Plus a bunch of gay sex.
What? Wait,
which one? Which one?
The one you
What
just
the
said.
fuck would you want
Yeah,
me to watch gay sex for? Not that I have anything against the homosexual community.
Right.
Like, I want you to watch this movie because there's a gay sex scene in it.
I just want to picture the turning on the movie and go, oh, what the fuck, Dad? Oh,
Buddy.
and just cursing my
Buddy.
name like that's what I
Buddy.
But you, more importantly, you have a choice for me, man. You can go merciful, you can go hard, whatever. You sign me back to the Avi, make me do double shots, change the Avi, watch a effed up movie in return. What do you got for me, Mike?
Yeah. Have you seen a Serbian film?
No, I haven't. Oh,
there
no.
You go. That's
oh,
it.
no. Newborn porn. No. Newborn porn. No. As terrible as it just sounded, folks. Yeah, I'm in for that. Okay. So for the Benji Boy Dog of the Week this week, we don't got a dating dog of the week.
Yes, we do.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, we got the Jared Dog of the Week. That means, oh, my man. There he is.
Oh, yes. He blessed her. He blessed her. Dayton blessed Tecia.
That's got to be the dog, dude. That's got to be our dog.
Oh, my God.
Dayton says he's 3-3. Yeah. Didn't give any rationale whatsoever. So I'm just here.
Oh, I know what his rationale it is.
Yeah,
very simple.
We know his rationale.
He picks the hottest chick on the card all the time.
Well, we know his taste. He also has a bit of there's an exotic flair. I think Dayton likes that too. We're getting his taste, right, Mike? We're getting his taste.
Is he a blonde guy as well?
What's that?
Is he a blonde guy?
No, he just looks pictures of their asses and shit, and he's like, I think I'm going to pick this one.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. And I hear he's 3-3.
He is. No, he's doing really good. He's doing really good.
Get after it.
I mean, I was going to say Raoni Barcelos because Raoni Brownie, but man, with Dayton blessing one of our favorite dogs, Tecia, I think I wouldn't be upset if you wanted to go with that instead.
Let's all ride together. Let's all ride
together. Let's go, Tecia, baby. Yeah, now I got to have some action on Tecia. I'm gonna have too much action on this card. I already have 4 units, not including a round robin that I'm still assembling. So I'm still trying to keep it light over here. But yeah, as far as the DLP parlay, here's what I thought, Mike. So we got the anchor Joseph Morales, right? We got Tecia Pennington blessed, but I was even before that Dayton thing. I was going to say Tecia by decision, and Barcelos money line. We don't got to get cute with Barcelos, but he was the second.
Hold on a second. I don't see the Morales fight on my board for some reason. Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Here it is. Morales and what was the other one? You want Tecia by decision?
Tecia by decision, Morales money line, and then Barcelos money line. I was going to see either Barcelos money line or John's money line, but
let me see. All right, I don't have that. They don't have that prop out right now for Tecia by decision. They just have her line. So her line is plus 154. We'll just put her in at that. What was the other two?
It was Barcelos.
Johns?
Yeah, or Miles Johns or Barcelos. They're both the same money line. Whichever. I was going to say Barcelos initially, but Johns I feel just as good at.
All right, we'll do Miles. You want to do Miles Johns?
Yeah.
All right, so that's plus 724 for the 3 of those.
It'll probably be over plus 800 because Tecia's going to be average 2-to-1 odds on that decision line from what I'm seeing, and that's a prop that will be widely available.
Now, if we throw Barcelos in the mix, it's plus 1900. Let's just fucking do it. Let's just do it. Yeah, fuck it.
Man. Okay, all right.
We got Joe Morales, we got Tecia Torres, we got Miles John, we got Raoni Barcelos plus 1920.
All right. That's going down, folks. Bet
responsibly, my children.
Yep, that's right. All right, let's recap before we get out of here. We're making good time today. By the way, so far I got Salikhov straight plus 151 unit, Amil minus 151.5 units, Barcelos plus 1451 unit, Barcelos Simon Vato under 2.5 plus 200 for a potential head/bonus at half a unit. Bonfim Brown point deduction plus 2,000. Just put a $20 I don't want to see again, as well as $20 I don't want to see again on the DOP parlay, which would be Barcelos money line, Morales money line, John's money line, and Tecia/Tecia by decision. If you can get that and increase your odds even further, you probably get plus 2,000 there, close to it. All right, let's go top to bottom before we plug our contacts on the way out. We are split. Oh, by the way, which one are we going to go head to head on this week, Mike? Because we are split on Bonfim and Brown.
Let's do the main event.
Let's go main event, baby. Main event. I got Bonfim, you got Brown. All right, that'll be the head-to-head. Look for the Bane versus Pink guy. That's going to be our classic code, Mike. We're both on Morales. Of course, he's in the DOP parlay. I'm on the Soggy special. I got old man Salikhov, whereas Mike's with the Southpaw Medic there. Bonfim, we're both picking him, but we're over Padilla, but we're not like super confident running to the window. I would not be surprised to see no action from either of us on that fight, or at least on the favorite. Ricky Simone, we love Ricky Simone, but we are both going with Raoni Barcelos there. We're split on this one. I'm going with Tulio. He's going with CLD. That'll be another fun head-to-head there, even though not an official bet one. We are both picking Hyder Amil over Jamall Emmers. We are split. I'm on Bueno Silva, Mike's on Cavalcanti, but we both agree where the value is on that fight, so to speak. We're both picking Hokit. That's a stay away. We're both on Pennington, which is also the Dayton dog of the week. Many blessings on Pennington this week. Juju her way. We are both on Johns over Marcos. And it doesn't matter who we're on for McVeigh or whoever they get to replace him. Mike, where can they find you, buddy?
Yeah, you go to the madlabmma.com. We full content, full breakdowns, audio, Fight Brain, DFS, wagering. We have a private Discord. I do a live stream before the fight, a couple hours before the fight. Also got NFL in there. We're positive money in every sport right now. So we're the working man's wagering blueprint. We don't throw 150 fucking wagers out and making you all these live bet and pivots and stuff like that. We give you our blueprint. It's a very modest blueprint, and we all have fun together. So if you want to come check us out over there. Outside of that, follow me on Twitter, or X now they call it, at Madlab MMA.
Yeah, you want to talk about integrity. One of the most integrity people I know in this space, which says something, is Mike over here. So I appreciate your layout on that, buddy, because, yeah, a lot of people don't do that, to your point. You can find me at Dan Tom MMA on all social platforms, my free Substack, where I'll post picks and plays. I'll post the round robins in the comments. Thank you guys for the positive comments. Those of you who visit on the weekly, like, subscribe to the Mail Media Network. We appreciate you. Good luck on your picks and plays. Shouts to Jamaica either way, and always protect